Hello everyone. Let's see. All right, so in today's tutorial, devlog, we're going to be working on the inventory system. We're going to try to make a simple inventory system that doesn't require that much of coding. Yeah. All right. So right now, what we have is basically the ability. Let me just get my character to. I was just testing this there, so let me just put my character into here. There we go. Now, as you can see here, we currently have in the system is the ability to pick up the weapons. So currently we have 3 types of weapons. So currently we have 3 types of weapons. Every time a new notification happens on my phone, pops up. So we have 3 types of weapons. One is the rifle, the pistol, and the bow. So what we want to do right now is make a key, a separate key, so that we can use it for maybe pressing it so that you can choose which kind of weapon you want to switch. So let's say, for example, you have the pistol. Currently, right now, we have the rifle. Now we have the bow. If I holster the bow, I have 2 types of weapons holstered on my back. And if I press a certain key, let's say, for example, Q, I can choose I can have the ability to choose which specific weapon I want to have. If that makes sense, right? Right. So we can do this with the HUD system. Right now, I don't want to make a HUD system. So what I'm going to do is press, let me see, Atom said type of menu overlay system or wheel system. I think a wheel system is outdated. Usually we had this wheel system in, for example, GTA 5, you can see the wheel system. And I like it a lot, but I think a menu type of system where we have in the, as we have in the Last of Us, I think it's better. What do you guys think? If you go to the Last of Us 2 and go to the weapon system, weapon HUD, as you can see, I think this is a lot clearer of what, you know, weapons you want to have. Let me just see if I can open up. Yeah, the same. Yeah, because I think The Last of Us 2 has a much clearer, cleaner system. Has a much. Let me just mute my phone here. Let me just mute my phone real quick. Sorry for that. All right, so in here, as you can see, if you scroll up your mouse, you can really access the bombs or the health. If you want to use a med kit, you can easily use that by just scrolling up with the mouse button. So you can use the scroll button of the mouse, up or down. So if you scroll up, you can access the med kit. If you scroll up a little bit more, you can access this bomb and so on, right? And if you press 1, you can access this shotgun in here. If you press 2, you can access it and use and switch to this bow. And if you press 3 or 4, you can access this ones. And if you scroll down instead of up, you can access these items in here. So I think it's much better than other than just getting a wheel. Let me just see, wheel, GTA 5, weapon system. Let me just see what is. Yeah, a wheel is also nice, but I feel like we're gonna have much control with using this system right here. Also, the bag animation when you press the button for opening up the backpack, then animation comes and screen menu comes up, and you can craft or see documents and skills. Yeah, that one is also nice, but I think that's going to be for polishing. But it's a good idea to have as well. Once we have everything set up, the basic stuff first. So we need to, firstly implement the animations and backend logic first, the necessary, the base first. Then we can worry about making those details. How do you feel about the Tetris style inventory like in Resident Evil? Resident Evil Tetris style? Ah, I think I remember. Yeah, this one. Yeah, I like it. I mean, I like it. It works. I played a lot of Resident Evil 4 in my childhood, so I can really feel how the nostalgia is like. But I think it's very nice. For this kind of game, I think it's very good. But I wouldn't do it on my system because it's very complex to make, I believe. It's much easier to add, those buttons in here. And then you can press 1, 2, or 3 or 4 to select which one you want. But I'm not that good with HUD, with the UI, so I'm going to do everything in the backend, and then later maybe I can make the HUD part. Working together with The Last of Us 2. Yeah, up and down, scroll for items and numeration keys for weapons. That would be great. Yeah, that's a lot easier. And if you want, as you can see here, you have 3 options. Let me just see if I can open up this. I cannot open up the image. What? Let me just. There we go. So as you can see, you have 3 dots. They represent the amount of weapons you have for the left side, and for the right side, you have more weapons that are, like pistol, pistol or revolver in this case. So we have 1 pistol and 1 revolver. So that's the kind of weapons you have on the right side. And in this case, in here, you have on the left side, you have the shotgun and the bow. You have 1 more. So if you want to access that 1 more weapon that you have available, you can just switch. Well, let's say, for example, I don't want to use the bow anymore, and I want to switch to another weapon. You have to press 2. So as you can see right here is 1. The numeration keys, you can press 1 in here to access this one. This one I can press 2. This one is 3, and this one is 4, right? And then here you can, of course, scroll one time. So scroll 2nd time, and scroll the 3rd time. And then here you're going to scroll down. So here is scroll up, and here is down, right? So that's a lot easier to have. So if you want to use another weapon, you can just hold 2 so that you can have a pre-selection of available weapons that you want to switch, and then select that one weapon that's not appearing here. That Toxin said good morning, hello, Mixie. I think that Toxin was the one that solved the bug of the ragdoll system. Let me just see, crash fix. I made a video about it. All right, so I've just recently discovered that we can actually fix the crash that was happening on. It's the same one. That Toxin found the bug fix for the crash for the ragdoll. So
the project of the, he actually managed to solve the guy. His name is Dead Toxin. He
Dead Toxin was the guy who was able to solve that issue. That was great. All right, so we're gonna focus now on making the inventory system. I'm not sure how this is going to go, but I just want to make a simple inventory system just to, in the sense of preparing the system in order to be able to switch weapons. So if you press 3 on the numpad, you can really see what was the last hosted weapon, and you can see the owned weapon and then their current state, right? So here we have the owned weapon 1, which is holstered. Then here we can see the current ammo quantity, the current pocket ammo quantity, the ammo capacity for each weapon. So what we want to do, I think I'm going to use a special key for selecting just see something real quick. I need some time to think about this. Yeah, I'm thinking about to create a first version of the inventory system. I don't want to basically make a complex inventory system right away, because firstly, I don't have an idea of how the HUD system works that much. I'm not experienced with HUD. And secondly is because I want to just test to see if it's going to work. But what I want to do is basically display on the screen. Maybe I could display with using the debug options that we have available in the Unreal. We have the debug nodes. So that if you press, maybe if you press like the one key, for example, just for testing. Let me just see if I'm using the one key right now. Oh yeah, we're using the numeration keys to debug stuff. So maybe if you press T, you can choose which weapon you want to pick up from the holster. So if you have a lot of weapons on the holster, you can basically have if you press like T from here, you can basically choose which weapons you want to have. And then you can press once to show up, you can press, and then if you press again, you can turn off that window. And then what's gonna happen here? So if you press T, if you have 3 weapons in here, it's going to show up a text showing the names of the weapons. And then it's bad because I wanted to use the numeration keys to choose the weapons. Numeration keys. Numeration keys. Can't you just use the ALS v4 inventory system? Yeah, I could use that. But as I've added too much things into my system, I'm not sure how I'm going to be able to add that inventory system into GASP, into this project right here. Okay. Okay, let's move up the debug options. Instead of being 1, 2, 3, I can move them to be 9, 8, 7. So that we can use the numeration keys to select which weapon you want to have. All right, so we're going to go to the debugging, to the debug function. So here, instead of pressing 1, we're going to press, here is going to be 0, here's going to be 9, and here's going to be 8. That's going to be better. Now we just have to change them in here. So instead of 1 is 0, instead of, wait, let me just check it out again. Instead of debug, so here is 1. So instead of 1 is 0. There we go. Instead of 2 is 9. And instead of 3 is 8. And I don't know what this is for. Debug booleans, but I'm not using it right now. Yeah, I don't have the 4th option, so I'm just going to unplug this. I'm not going to be using it. Not used. So I'm going to create a new graph in here because we have a lot of graphs for each action, each system inside one project. So here I'm going to create a new graph to separate things a little bit and make things more organized. especially for the inventory system where you need to use input keys to trigger things. To make things happen. So here is inventory system. And here I'm going to press one key. Oh yeah, maybe we can use the mouse scroll up or down to... Oh yeah, maybe we can do that. I'm still thinking. So let's say the character has 2 weapons. And both of them are holstered. If I press T, it's going to show up a message in the screen. And it's going to tell me basically which weapon do you want to pick up from the holster. Which weapon you want to unholster. So if you use the left, the scroll up or down. If you scroll up or down, you can basically choose which weapon you want to have. So let's try to do that for now. Just get the key, the T key. And then in here, I'm going to do something here. I want to make a custom event that will trigger a node that I like very much, which is the debug node. And I just want to debug the weapon info. Debug weapon, basically debug available, holstered weapons. Debug available holstered weapons. Now, what I want to execute from here is a debug print string. Actually, string debug, something like this way. I forgot the node. Debug. Yeah, draw debug string. And this is going to get the actor. Now this node in here is going to basically place a text in the location that you ask it to place. What I want to do is just basically place a text, which is going to be the text of the available holstered weapons that you have available for, on holstery. So I want the text location to be right in the center of the character so that we can really see what's being said there. And now here the text is going to be the text of the weapon. If I just place any text, like text will show up here, for example. Now I want to execute that this custom event in here. We can only execute it once if you set the duration to be like 5, so it's going to last 5 seconds. You can also place it to be in the event 6, so that's going to update it as long as the execution doesn't get to be executed anymore. So if you press T right now, as you can see, you can really see a text that will show up here. So if you keep pressing it, it's going to show up. It's going to just pop basically the string so that you can basically see. And each string is going to take like 5 seconds to disappear. That's the most simplest HUD that we can have so far, but things are going to improve in the future. It's just a prototype to test. So here's the event that I've just created. We're going to just basically get that event to be executed at runtime. I've set the duration to be 0 because it's going to be executed at the event tick. And I also basically going to just paste that event in here. Just call that event in here on the event tick. Maybe on the debug function. before debugging, we're gonna want to debug that. If you press play, as you can see, it's going to force the text to be appearing there. Now, if you double click on that function, as you can see, that's being called. Now, to prevent the text from showing, we want to just make a new Boolean variable to be debug weapon, or just open weapon inventory. And then we're going to use a flip-flop because I want to, as soon as I press, if I press once again, it's going to close up the inventory menu. So if it's, I think we could do this. So as soon as we press once, it's going to turn this this Boolean variable to be true. If we press once again, the T, it's going to set this variable to be false. But we need to have the released option here too. So it's going to execute the flip-flop once you press and once you release, but it's up to you to define that as well. If you want to use the T key to just show up the inventory once you, if you want to press only once and then press once again to just close the inventory, you can do that as well. Or you can just use the T to just, while you're holding the T, as long as you're holding the T, the inventory system is not going to disappear. But once you let go of the T, you can close the inventory system automatically as you've let go of the key. So you can choose to have that on or off. It's up to you. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just get that variable called open weapon inventory. I'm going to just plug this. I'm going to only execute the draw debug string node only if that variable is true. So if you press play, so as you can see, the text disappeared. I want to also debug this to see what's happening at runtime. So this is the best way you can do this. I'm going to just debug things. So as you can see, if you press T, as you can see, the text will show up here. And it's going to follow the character. If you press T once again, the text is going to disappear. If you keep pressing, as you can see. So basically what's happening here, as soon as you execute the flip-flop once, this is going to be turned to be true. And as soon as you execute it once again, it's going to be false. And that Boolean is going to switch from true or false. The branch is going to direct the right execution. So as you can see, everything works. Now, what I want to do is just display the weapons, the text showing up the weapons that we currently have. So as you can see, if I press 7, I think it's 8. And as soon as you pick up a rifle, as you can see, you have the owned weapon 1, which is the rifle. And we have the state that if the weapon is equipped or not. So let me just search for that owned weapon, because we have the debug function where we have all the other variables in here. So as you can see, this orange print string is what's reading from it, is what's reading from the available weapons. So if I drop the weapon, what happens? Oh, we can still read. No, we cannot read that yet because it's not valid. That's very interesting. As you can see, if I pick up the rifle, so as you can see now, this state is valid, which now is printing the string with the values that it's being read from the owned weapons. If you click on here, you can really see the weapon that is being owned by the character, for the character. We have other informations as well. Current ammo amount, carrot equip socket. The weapon state is also very important to see what's the current state of the character. If the character is holding, is equipped, or because if you holster and then try to go back, as you can see now the weapon state changes to weapon is holstered. The weapon type, of course, is going to be rifle. We also have the skeletal mesh asset, and then the skeletal we can really see everything in here. It's very sick. So I think what we need to do in here is basically promote this to a variable and then use that to basically check if it's valid, if it's not valid, those things. And then we can display that available weapon to be in the print string. So basically what I want to do is that when I press T, you don't need to be pressing and holding the T key in this setup. So you can just press once and then release it, so that it's going to show up the text that's going to be following the character. And then it's going to show up the weapon list that you can choose that is holstered on the character already. Now I'm thinking if I should also show the weapon name that the character is also the weapon name that the character is also holding as well, not only if the weapon is holstered. Yeah. I think for now, I'm only going to display a list. Of the weapons that the character is holstering. I think it makes more sense for now. Yeah, so we're going to do that right now. So what I'm going to do is promote all the BP owned weapons, the references that gets out of here, to a variable. And then display that somehow in the debug text. Or we could use this somehow this code somehow. Let me see if I can just use get weapon state. I'm going to switch. And only if the weapon is holstered. Only if the weapon is holstered. want to print a string. Let me see if that works. Morningstar said you're back. As always. I've stopped the live streams a little bit just to focus more on the light system because it requires too much attention to do all the little details, all the backend part. I say your light system short. When do you plan to release the tutorial? I think it's going to be out in 4 days or 3 or tomorrow maybe. I think I'm going to release the premium version first because I plan to make and release the premium version first for Patreon members because the system is already done. I just need to be, as the system is very complex and it's very robust and it's very large. It's a large system. I plan to make a separate version for premium members, which will have all the systems, all the possibilities for the character to navigate to the ledges, the corners, do the corners all for hanging. There's a lot of possibilities. I think it's going to be the biggest system that I've ever made. And there's a lot to cover. So the reason why I'm just doing that is because making a tutorial for, I think it's going to take like more than 3 to 6 hours to make the tutorial. I don't want to I don't want to spend like 3-6 hours to make the tutorial. It's going to be a lot for me. And that's the 3 hours I mean by edited, right? So usually I make tutorials, I spend like 3 to 4 hours to make 2 hours of content because it's edited. It requires a lot more time than that. For the climbing system, I'm using the climbing system. I'm using this one. It's called Action Adventure Ledge Climbing Animation Pack. This pack is the best version so far. I'm going to be talking about it in the tutorial. I've talked to the guy that made those animations. He's very good. He's also working on other animations, I think. And I've talked to him. I think he's going to give me support on making extra animations for my system. So for following the tutorial, you're gonna have to have those animations. You're gonna have to buy those animations. Whoever's going to follow the tutorial. So I think it's $80. $80 the pack for the large system. I think it's pretty much worth it because with my system and his animations, the the whole project is good. It's going to be, if you know how to use my system. So I think it's better for me to make a really good tutorial with clear details, so that people can use it, refine it, learn from it. So that's what I want. So you can pretty much see on the preview here, if you go to the Discord, you see how the system is going. As you can see, this is the ledge freehang navigation. It's very much smooth. I'm still refining the timelines. Have you considered incorporating Jacob's project as well at a certain point? Also uses. It's also a Last of Us style game. Yeah. I don't want to copy the mechanics, but I want to copy only and copy and model only those ones that are really interesting, like the rope, for example, the swimming system. I tried to take a look at the swimming system from Jacobs, but it's so much complex. Only him understands what he did, and I cannot catch up with the code, because it uses a lot of things that I don't know yet. And as you can see on my swimming system, I think it really looks good. If you take a look at the swimming system I've made the tutorial about it as well. And it's very simple, and it looks good. It doesn't require that much of. I think it looks very good enough. Let me see if I can find it. Demo. Unreal Engine. As you can see. I don't know why I only got 2.3K. This system looks the best one. Best swimming system. As you can see. I've just placed a box to just simulate the water. Doesn't need that much detail. VFX artist said, "Can you please teach me how to fix the slide?" Which slide? All right, let's get back to it. So here we're going to only debug the string if we can check for if the weapon inventory boolean variable is true. Here we're basically checking if the character owns at least one weapon, because if it doesn't own at least one weapon, it doesn't make sense to open up the inventory system. Now we're going to do the for each loop, and then we're going to filter. We're going to only get the weapon that it's holstered on the character. And then we're going to get the display name, and then we're going to display that name in here. I think it's going to be really not good, because depending on the type. Let me see here. I think I can do format. I think format is better. Format, in this case, is better. So format text, and then we can plug that into here. And then what we can do, you can say, let's say, for example, weapon, and then weapon, like weapon 1. And then you can put, I don't know what this is called, but you can put that, and then inside of that, you can place the name of the variable that's going to be. So let's say, for example, display name variable. And as soon as you update, you have this wildcard type of variable. It's like a variable, but empty. The type of variable hasn't been defined yet, so that's why it's gray. So what you can do, you can basically get the display name to be here. So just plug in play, and then the wildcard is going to turn into a string. And then you can do the same thing. I'm not sure how to add the
I think it's like this. Let me just see if I play. All right. Here it says not in scope. Let me just try to loop. Maybe get the equal. If it equals to weapon holstered, then get the branch and then print a string saying hello. For some reason it's not getting the weapon state. I'm just print a string to see if that happens. Oh, okay, because I don't. Oh, it's because I don't have any weapon holster. That's why. So here I'm going to type weapon 1, and then here it's going to be weapon 2. I'm not sure how to put the text right below each other. I think if I'm not wrong, I think it's N. Like you had the slash and then type N. How to add space. How to add space in like in C++ in this case. I think it's not space, it's how to add a text right below each other. Yeah, I think it's in this one. So you add in like this, and then the weapon tree is going to be displayed in there. I believe so. Let's try with and without this one, just to see if that's gonna do anything. So weapon display, weapon 1 and weapon 2, display name, this one is going to be true to differentiate that. And now we're gonna have to find a way to check, to get different values to set up in here. Maybe depending on the array. So let's also promote the array to a variable, because the array is the unique identity of what's coming out of the array element. So if you only have one variable in here for on the weapons, if you only have one reference of the weapon in this case, the array index is just going to be 0 or 1. Now, if you have two weapons, it's going to be, you're going to have two arrays. One is 0 and the other one is 1, and then so on, right? And then we basically need to check and basically display out the text, and at the same time check if the array equals to the same that I've just printed. That I'm just printing, to not print two arrays at the same time. But I think so far we don't need that much complexity. Let's just get a display name to be connected directly into here so that we can know right away which weapons are available for us to unholster from the holster. I also have to get the weapon state. And if it's equal to weapon holstered, then compile. Now press on play, and now let's see if that's gonna work. So as soon as I holster the weapon and press T, as you can see, we have the BP child in there. So if I holster the pistol, now it's going to be overlapping. Now it is going to be overlapping. Yeah, I can do the same as it is in this one. As you can see, I get the BP owned weapons, and then I get the specific array from that. A specific array, not array, specific, a specific reference out of that array. So here I'm getting the index 0 from that array, which means I'm getting only the first weapon that appears. So if the first weapon that is stored in that array is the rifle, then that's going to be the first one. If you debug by pressing 8, as you can see, this one is available. So as you can see, if you if you see from the BP owned weapons, the first one is the rifle. So this one gets validated. The first one gets validated. The second one is going to depend on which weapon is going to be holstered next. So if I holster, or if I just pick up the bow, for example, it's not going to filter if I have the weapon holstered or just equipped. So even if I have the weapon holstered or equipped, it's going to show up for me in here. So as you can see, now I have a second weapon. Now the second weapon is stored at the index of 1. And then if I go and debug from the array and click on the arrow, as you can see, now it shows up for me which weapon I have. In this case, I have the rifle. If you click on the rifle, as you can see the properties, the weapon state. Now the weapon is holstered. If you scroll down a little bit more, as you can see, the bow child is in here. You can see the weapon state is weapon is equipped. If I drop that weapon, as you can see, it starts, it automatically gets removed from that array, because I have a remove system from array, so it removes the reference of whatever weapon got dropped to not confuse the system. So basically, the weapons that are on the character, either equipped or holstered on the character, we consider that the character owns that weapon. So we have made a specific array to just store the references of all the weapons into that array, which is this one right here. So that we can have a control over which weapons we have the character has owned. So as you can see, the third weapon, if I pick up pistol, as you can see, now it's validated, the reference of the third weapon. And now if I click on here, as you can see, the pistol, the weapon state is weapon is equipped, and we have all the other informations that we don't need to worry about that right now. So what I want to do in here is just copy the same way that I've done in here, but for the system. So instead of getting a for each loop, that in this case is not really needed, you can just get rid of that, and then get it to a branch, and then in here you're going to get it to be 0. What do I do? Let me just delete that array index in here. I'm not sure what's going on the screen, but it's really interesting. Yeah. So what we're gonna do is only proceed with the code if this reference is validated, because sometimes the weapon might drop, and sometimes you might get a weapon that's not being referenced, that the reference isn't valid. So as soon as you drop a weapon, it's going to be removed out of that array. And then I want to make a what I want to do is just copy or make a wait. Yeah, I don't want to get too complex at the beginning in here, so I'm just going to make it simple, just copy paste. I'm not going to make any macros or any functions right now to not confuse myself, because sometimes I get confused and I ask myself why it's not working. It's because I rush to do things. So if I could just give you one single tip to not keep doing wrong stuff, just don't rush on doing things, just be normal. All right, so the sequence is going to be 1, 0, 1, 2. So if the reference is valid, and so if the weapon is valid, which means the weapon is either on the character's either on the character's hand or equipped on the character's holster. So if one of those conditions met, this is going to be valid. Let me just do that test for now, just to see. I'm just put a random text in here. So weapon 1, this is going to be weapon 2, then weapon 3. Press on play. Mixer said, "Is the project replicated?" No, I'm not going to be replicating this one, because if you try to replicate this one, then good luck, because there's so much things in here. You're gonna have to replicate basically all the variables in here. And for replication, I think you should consider blueprints. I think you should rely on C++, because it's better and it's faster, especially for multiplayer. But you can also do it with blueprints, but it's going to be laggy. It's not going to perform well for multiplayer. So for now, if you pay someone for replicating and making the whole code to be, instead of blueprints, to C++, then that's a very good idea. I support that. Now let's try to test this thing out. Let's press the T to activate the inventory system.
So as you can see, if I drop the weapon, as you can see, the inventory system is open. As we don't have any weapons, well, actually we don't have any weapons on for the character. So as you can see, this array is 0. So if it doesn't, that's not going to make it pass through this execution line in here. So basically this is going to check if the character owns at least one weapon. So if it doesn't, then don't execute this. Now if you pick up the rifle again, as you can see now we have something going on here. We pass through this validation check. We go to a sequence. The reason why I get a sequence is because I want to execute multiple strings at the same time. The total of weapons that we have is 3. The possible weapons that we can pick up in the world is 3. So that means so that's why I chose to have 3 validation checks in here. So here's going to check if the weapon is holstered. So if it's valid, it's going to pass through and then debug the string, which is going to happen right now. So let's just holster the weapon. Now it's going to display weapon 1, which is great. Now we know it's working. But what happens if you pick up multiple weapons? I think the text is going to overlap each other. Now press T, as you can see, weapon 1. Press Q, as you can see now the weapon 1 is overlapping the weapon 2, and it's a mess. So what we can do is basically very simple. We can just add a little bit of offset on the z-axis, and the z-axis controls the vertical position in the world. So we're going to add like 20 for that one, and then 40 for the third one. So that I think it's going to be below. I think I can add -20 and then -40 so that the weapon 3 always get below the weapon 2 and then so on. So press play. Okay, press T, the T key, and then holster the other weapon. I think. Let me just see here. It's too much below of the character. Let's put this. Let's put the location a little bit up for the weapon 1. Let's see, 80 or 90, maybe 100, so that we can follow up by adding the other ones. So this is going to be 90, and this is going to be 80. SE said, what's the difference between actor component versus gameplay abilities? I'm not sure what gameplay abilities is. I think gameplay abilities is from the Lyra project, isn't it? Gameplay abilities. I'm not sure about this. Is this a component? What is this? I know what actor component. I think what actor component is. I'm not sure, but it's you can create a new component, for example, in here. Looping class, actor component. You can create it in here. So let's say, for example, you want to have a separate, you want to make a system. Let's say you want to make a weapon system, but you don't want to put code inside of your character, which you don't need to worry about that right now, but this is good for performance. So if you want to place the logic of like how many bullets, like what kind of weapon does what in the code in the game, and you don't want to just store everything in the character, you want to store it inside the component. You put everything inside that actor component. So let's say you're making a flight system and you want to hold, and by activating the system you can make your character fly. And this is usually when you buy a marketplace component. Usually when you go buy a marketplace asset, they usually come in form of the actor component because they are easy to add to your character. So let's say you've downloaded a marketplace flight system that you want to add to your character. So all that code, when you download it, it's going to come in here. So it's going to have line traces, whatever there has to be needed in there. Then there needs to be in here. So you have the event begin play, you have the event tick, as we have inside the character as well. As you can see, you have the begin play, the event take, which is very important. So as you can see, this component is called flight system. I can add that component to my character. So I can type component, new, I think it's new blueprint script component. What is it? Flight. Yeah, I can just search for flight system right away. I don't need to add a component and choose which component I want to have. So as you can see now, here's the flight system. So as you can see, what I've added in here is basically the component inside my character. As you can see, we have a lot of pre-existing components inside the GASP system as well. And those components, for example, the motion matching, I think it's responsible for. Yeah, I think they did that in C++. Let me just open up to see what they've wrote. So as you can see, this is the motion matching component that they have built, they have wrote, and you can access what's the component like. Yeah, this is the code that the Epic Games has written for the motion matching, motion warping to work actually, not motion matching. Now we also have the pre-CMC tick. I think this is a blueprint. This is a blueprint component. So you have two ways of creating components. You can either choose to have it in C++ or in blueprints, which is this case of this component in here. So as you can see, you have the begin play and it casts to the character, and then the event take we run the logic responsible for handling how fast the character rotates, how fast the character runs. So as you can see, all that is controlled by here. I've disconnected some nodes because I don't need. They were making my code to be not performing good. But as you can see, the type of rotation that you want to have, if you want the character to always aim the mouse location where the mouse is aiming at. Here we have the movement. So we have the max acceleration. So we change the max acceleration based on the character velocity. So it's good to have that. So let's say, as I've added the flight system, the custom actor component that I've made, maybe I want to access. I'm not sure how to access I think I can access the player character, but usually I think we do a cast to sandbox character, or I think the right way to do this would be get owner and then of the actor component. And then here we have the actor object reference that we can promote it to a variable. And then we can call this sandbox character. And then from the sandbox character, what we can do is get the actor location. So let's say you want to spawn a line trace and you want to get the sandbox character location to spawn the line trace. So let's say I want to add a line trace to spawn down to maybe detect the ground, detect the slope of the ground, how many degrees, that sort of stuff. I'm going to add negative 300 so that it goes 300 down, 300 units down to reach the ground. The draw debug type is going to be for 1 frame. So as soon as you compile, oh yeah, I forgot the object type. I think in this case, it's good to have a object type. I'm going to add a line trace for channel instead. Line trace by channel. So that it doesn't require a specific object to hit for the line trace to detect. So when you press play, as you can see now, that line trace is going to be spawned. So that's just, you know, a way to just keep the code in here, unless instead of just populating the whole character with codes and stuff, you know, just a way to organize things better. Yeah, especially for aiming systems, I think it's good to have a aiming system as a component as well. I think it's going to be more performant. So that's how the actor component works. But like for a beginner, you don't really need to worry about that right now. But I think it's really important for you to have an idea of how it works, so that I can have an idea to how to optimize your game better in the future. Can you add that you can you add that you can shoot without aiming too? Shoot without aiming, without needing to aim. Let me just delete the flight system component. But firstly, I need to close the window and then delete it from here. So we just deleted the actor, just delete that flight system. All right, sandbox character. Oh yeah, I forgot as well that you can just drag and drop the component and then just access the custom events that I've just placed in there. So let's say, for example, you have a custom event inside the pre-CMC tick, which is a name that they gave to the actor component. So let's say you have a custom event that, you know, explode character event, right? You have that event there, and you want to execute that event, and it's just going to basically destroy the sandbox character. So it's just going to basically destroy the actor. That's the event that I want to have. Now, basically, for it to be able to destroy the character, you just basically reference inside the character blueprint, you reference that pre-CMC tick. And then you explode character. And then if you press the letter 5, and then as soon as you press 5, this event here is going to be executed. So you're basically calling the component and then calling the function, the event that is inside that component that's being referenced, that's referencing the player, and you're basically using the function that is built in the engine to destroy the player. Now for adding, if you want to aim without, actually shoot without aiming, you're gonna have to go to the event graph. Or maybe, yeah, I think for aiming without needing to aim to shoot, I think it's going to look bad, because my code is not really, my animations, you know, you're gonna have to change the animations, but I mean, if you shoot from this position, yeah, maybe, I don't know. Oh, the arrow got. Yeah, we have two options. Maybe you want to aim. Maybe you want to shoot without aiming by just making the character to shoot without aiming. That makes sense. maybe if you press the left mouse button to shoot, you want the character to just shoot right away, or you just want to make the character to aim first and shoot, like this. Like this. Or maybe you want to shoot. Or maybe when you press to shoot, you make your character to automatically aim for you. Maybe it's that. Not sure. Let me know. You should have AC, actor component, because people will not understand messy code. Yeah. Yeah, that's something that I worry about in the future. I want to organize this a little bit more. Because blueprints can easily get messy, as you can see. Right now, it's not really messy, depending on the code that you look at. But you can really get used to the code. And try to figure things on your own. But in the future, I plan to move things to the actor component. When I crouch with your idle pose, my character slowly stands up to perform the animation. Lol, do you know why? When I crouch with the idle pose, my character slowly... Yeah, that issue is also funny. Let me see if that happens as well. I think it doesn't happen in the latest version, but because I fixed that already, I think. Let me just check if that's still happening. Let me see. Let me see. Crouch. All right. It would be I think it would be much easier to just add crouch idle animations instead of, you know, trying to blend, because when you blend the upper body, the pelvis also gets blended as well. So maybe that's why the animations gets maybe that's why the character slowly stand up. I think it's because of that. But I think in the latest code I changed, and now the character doesn't play idle animations when the character is crouched. That's the issue I found. That's the solution I found. And I've also tried to use the layer blend per bone to blend the spine, but I think it also affects the pelvis. And if you try to only use the clavicle arms or anything like that, it's going to look weird. I've already tried that one. Let me just see if I can use this.
crouch. Yeah, I think I fixed it. Fixed the idle animations from playing. Actually, I fixed the character from standing up while playing the idle animations while the character's idling. How do I download the system? You're gonna have to subscribe on Patreon to access the system. Stance. So here, what I want to do, I want to get, I have two stances. So stand or crouched, right? So what I want to do, if the character is standing or crouched, I want to enable same way. I want to play the idle break animation. Let me see if he's going to play the idle animation. Okay, he's playing. Now crouch. Okay, that looks better than I expected. Okay, that looks good. But now when I crouch, when I stand up from crouch to while playing the idle animations, the character, as you can see, snaps when he stands up. I want to see how to solve that bug. I think it's because of this node right here. I'm not sure. This crouched or standing, as you can see. The blend weight, it has to be smoothly set to be 1. And the reason why it's snapping is because we have a boolean that converts to a float, and then if the boolean, for example, is 0, so if the boolean is false, then the float is going to be 0. If the boolean is true, then that value is going to snap up to 1 right away, right? So maybe that's the issue. That's cool. So you don't have that's cool. So you don't have that code in the animation graph anymore. Which code? You moved it over to the event graph. Oh, the event graph. Yeah, I have 2 codes actually in the event graph. One's one code for handling why and how and when the idle pause happens. Yeah. So I have 3 codes. One in the sandbox character, which checks if the character is standing still, because it doesn't make sense to just play the idle pause right away. If the actually I wanna, yeah, I think you understand what I'm talking about. So if you go to the event graph, I've made a code that so that from this amount of seconds you can choose when exactly the character is going to start playing those idle animations, right? Because depending on the player's input. So if the player stops giving input for the character to move. So let's say if the player just went to the bathroom and then stopped playing the character, right? So what I want to do is basically play those idle animations so that it looks cool. Here I want to randomize this idle break delay seconds. I think I want to randomize this a little bit. Let's just random float in range. And then the minimum could be also 6.5 and between 13 seconds. So it's going to range, and then the code is going to automatically select for you which what's the best. It's going to be randomized, basically. If you press on play, as you can see, as soon as you press on play and the character is not moving, let me just see something here. Let me just check something here, because this value, the idle break timeline, I think this value could be set not in here, but in here, because it gets to be set unnecessarily. And this is going to be better for performance. Now that's much better. So when you press play, so if you move the character and stop, so as you can see, it's going to set the timeline length. I'm not sure which value it's set in here. Let me just check it out. Print string, get the timeline, get the length, get timeline length, and then let's see how much seconds it decided to set for the length. All right. So when you stop, so now I've decided to set 12 seconds until the character starts playing the idle animation. So as you can see, the timeline is running, the clock is ticking. So as soon as you So now it's 11 seconds. Now it's 11 again. Now it's 8. So it's going to take 8 seconds for the character to play the random idle animation, and that's really cool. You can see it works. So I've set this type of code in here. So set time until the idle animation plays on the character. So that we can set this variable to be true, start idle break by time, which is then on the event graph, we read that variable in here. Let me just organize this a little bit more. So I think this node does not need commentary, it does not need to be specified, because it's basically simple, right? So we can basically play and set this start idle to break variable to be true or off. Depending on those conditions. So if the movement mode of the character is on ground, if the character is grounded, then we can play the idle animation. If the movement state of the character is idle, we can play the idle animation. If the character does not want to aim, we can play. If the character is playing any montage, like picking up an item, if it's not, then we can play. If the character is not playing a reload animation, it's not holstering, and it is the start idle break by time is true, which is set by here. As you can see, when the timeline finishes, it checks for that. So if that's set to true, we can finally enable the start idle break, a variable to be true, and then on the animation graph, where is it? Animation graph. And then here we have the start idle break, which is the same variable. Let me just close everything here, which is the same variable as this one right here. And then idle break states, idle. Now we have those pulses. So here we use the motion matching locomotion, the base locomotion. And here we use the random idle stand animations cache, which is retrieved, which is fed from here. So as soon as you play the game, yeah, that's not activated automatically, so that's good. So it only activates when the character starts to aim, to play the idle animation. So as you can see, only when the character starts playing, needs to play those idle animations, the random sequence player is going to be feeding the random idle stand animations cache. So our basically doing here is just saving those pulses into a cache so that we can use it later to use it if you want, if you need, which is happening from here. So we're using the same random, so as you can see, these are the same ones, the same caches from to play the idle animations. So as you can see, I use them in 2 locations. It's because I need to, and that's why I've created the cache. So if I need to use same animations on the same but I want to use them in different locations, but I want to use the same poles. And I create a cache. And then I crouch in here. Character gets stiff. He goes stiff to the ground. So we need to set some sort of mode to switch smoothly whenever we need to stop playing the idle animations. We need a system to work like this, so that the character doesn't go doesn't crouch or stand up snappy. So what I want to do is just if the character is playing the idle as it is right now, and then if I click on C to crouch, I want the character to stop a little bit to reduce the blend weight a little bit smoothly, and then come back to 1, so that it doesn't have that effect of the character being stiff. And then do the same thing as for going up. So instead of going up snappily, I want to basically make the blend weight from 1 to be 0 a little bit, like that's going to take like 3 milliseconds, and then go back to 1 in 3 milliseconds as well. So we need to make that code. Will also be really cool to add this chaos destruction. Let's say you shoot against the wall and the bullet holes are made with chaos destruction. Or destruction. I don't know how hard it is to make, but it would be cool. Yeah, that will certainly be cool to make. And also a step-by-step tutorial. I think I've already made that, but I think I removed the... I've already made a step-by-step tutorial on how to make that. So let me just fix the crouching issue right now, so that the character does not be stiff. I'm going to reduce the seconds so that we can get the character to be stiff right away. The minimum is going to be 1, the maximum is going to also be 1, just to debug. So press on play. It's going to play the idle animation. Yeah. It's very funny. All right, what we can do, we can create a variable, let's say crouch blend, maybe. This is getting a little bit messy. As you can see, I have to organize those variables by category. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. Crouch blend. So this crouch blend is going to be set to be float. And then we're going to read that crouch blend from here. So we're going to get property access, and then get the sandbox character, and then get the crouch blend. And then we can connect it to here, and then we're going to feed that crouch blend with the values information that we need. And then I'm going to use a timeline to do that. I'm thinking a little bit. So let me just test again to make sure. Do you have a stance variable inside the sandbox character? No, you don't. So we're going to check for the start idle break, which, because this start idle break boolean is the one that controls if the character wants to, if the character will play the idle animation montage or animation sequence or not. So as soon as that variable is true, the character will play the idle, is playing already the idle animation. So what we're basically gonna have to do in here is just basically check for the start idle break. So if you get the ABP animation blueprint reference of the sandbox character, let me see if that's, yeah, that's not being set anywhere. So I'm gonna have to make the rough reference in here, which is going to not be that much performant, but in this case, we're not going to worry about too much performance right now. So we're going to get the animation instance, and then we're going to cast to ABP sandbox character. And then from here, we're going to get that variable name in there. So the start idle break. So set start idle break. No, actually, we're going to just get it. Idle break. And then we're going to check for that, if that variable is true or false. And then we're going to get the crouch function. Here, for crouching and non-crouching, I think I'm going to place that code in here. Non-crouch and crouch. Yeah, one thing that we really need is the timeline. So I'm just going to add it right away. And a timeline that goes from, you can get a linear curve of the length of 3 and then a linear curve from 0 to 0.3. So the time is going to be 3 milliseconds and the value is going to be 1 as always. So it's going to be, it's going to go from 0 seconds. No, actually from 0 seconds to 0.3, so 3 milliseconds from a value of 0 to 1. Now I'll go back to here. Where is it? And then basically change the crouch blend. And then of course we're going to have to read that crouch blend inside the sandbox character. So let's do it right now. Yeah, it's already being set in here. So you don't need to do anything, just plug and play. Now if the character is playing the start idle break, which means that it already validated all the possible transitions so that the character can safely play the idle animations. So if this timeline, of course, we're going to update the crouch blend, the blend. And how are we going to be able to update the crouch blend is going to depend on if the character is crouched or uncrouched. So if the character is crouching, then we're going to play from start. If the character is uncrouching, then we're going to play
reverse. But now the thing is how are we going to handle this function specifically in here? So on crunch. So if the character crouches, yeah, maybe we can execute the same, do it on the same line, but from here we're going to detect if the character is crouched or not. So if the character is crouching, we're going to play from start. If it's not, then we're going to do the reverse, so that we can smoothly set the crouch blend value. Actually, this is going to play because sometimes you might have snappy results with the play from start. So if you want to get smooth results, you only choose play and reverse. If you're just using it for just one time, I think it's worth to be play from start. But if you want, especially if you're working with animations, so if you want to have smooth results and low probability of having snappy bugs or results from blending, you might choose to have the play. That's the best option that we have so far. Now let's see if this is going to work. I'm curious to see if that's going to watch the value. Sometimes watching the value doesn't work. So as you can see, let me just stop this and print a string instead. And text color is going to be somewhere like orange. Press on play and then wait for this. So when you press on crouch, so that value changes to this. I'm not sure why when the character stands up it snaps. Maybe it's not because of this, but because of the true blend time and the false blend time, as you can see right there. So if you press on play, as you can see, I think the false pulls can be a little bit higher, like 4. So it's getting there. As you can see, now the false blend time is a little bit lower, which means the character is going to stand up much smoother. Yeah, so I think that's probably working. Let me see. Yeah, maybe that can work independently if the character is running the idle break. So I'm just going to remove this just to test things out to see if we don't need that to be read in here. So yeah, it's like this. You have to test things out to see what works best, what you really need to do, and then just keep testing.
So always when I uncrouch, the blend wait is always set to be 1 in 3 seconds, or no, 3 milliseconds, or 30 milliseconds as you prefer to call it. So what I really need to do in here, let me think. Well, I think I'm going to make this 60. And then this is going to be, I'm going to add one more key in here. The time is going to be 6. And the value is going to be 0. But I think this has to be reversed. So the value here is going to be 1. It's going to start at 1, and at the middle it's going to go down to 0. And then it's going to go up to 1 again. Yeah, I think it's going to be like this. This is the weirdest timeline I've ever made. Yeah, it's doing something, I think. It's doing something. Let's do 1 second, and then I'm going to split the second into 3 parts. So the last one is going to be 1, and the time here is going to be half blend. Half, all right, play. I think for this one, it's going to be something like this. So when he looks to the left, yeah. Yeah, I think he improved a little bit. You can always change the curves to see which one looks nicer. I think this one is enough. Yeah, I think that's enough. I'm sorry for the relaying the whole stream. Yeah, no problem. No, it's all right. But at least we fixed the. At least we got to fix the crouch blend. Yeah, I guess that's enough for today. I think it's enough. We've got to make a little bit of the inventory system. Still work in progress. And today we've got to fix the crouch movement system, which was snapping, but now it's not. And add a little bit of more conditions to the crouch system, to the idle animations, when the idle animations can play on the character. And I also have to set up back these options in here. So we also have optimized the code a little bit, and also have added the random floating range, which we can edit and basically choose from which specific time frame the character can play the idle animations. So the maximum is 15 seconds. So basically choose in here from which time from the character, as soon as the player stops making the character to move, for how long, how much seconds we should start playing the idle animations on the character. So you can basically choose that in here. I think it's random floating range is better, because I think it makes, I don't know, I think it makes a little bit more randomized. Yeah. Make the holster more flexible. Yeah, I'm going to make the
I'm going to make the inventory system and then solve all the other rest. So that's going to be it for this stream. We've got to make a little bit of the inventory system, and the next tutorial and the next live stream we're going to be in the next live stream we're going to be continuing to work on the inventory system. Yeah, so that's going to be it. I hope you enjoyed.